Welcome into the show, everybody. It's me again. Welcome. So happy that you are here. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at the ESPN Plus, their newest 2-round mock draft for the Washington Commanders. Before we get into any of that, I just got to shed some light on this, okay? Because ESPN, they make you pay $120 a year for this type of stuff. And here on the Commanders Report, we're giving it to you for 100% free. So if that's not a good enough argument for you guys to subscribe to the channel, then I don't know what is, okay? Get free draft content all year round, all off season long. Anything you want Washington Commanders, we have right here on the channel. So if you have not already, make sure to hit that sub button. All right, before we get into the draft, let's take a look at the team needs for Washington. These, in my opinion, are the 5 biggest needs going into the offseason, going into the draft, going into free agency. Number 1, offensive tackle. Number 2, left guard. Okay, I think if you shore up the offensive line, this offense can take an even bigger leap in 2025 than they did in 2024. I think a wide receiver would be a massive, massive addition. And then on the defensive side, pass rusher and cornerback are 2 big positions of need. And you got to ask yourself, do you go in those free agency? Do you go to those in the draft? We'll talk more about that coming up. So for that draft, the day 1 and 2 picks for Washington is the 29th overall. That's round 1. That'll be Thursday night. And then on Friday, round 2, round 3, you have the 61st overall pick. And then shortly after that into round 3, you have the 79th overall pick. But today we're just talking about drafts number 1 or draft day round number 1 and round number 2. And in round number 1, at the 29th overall pick, ESPN Plus has the Washington Commanders taking James Pearce Jr. out of the University of Tennessee. And let me tell you, I went to Tennessee, so obviously I love this pick, but I'm going to convince you guys why you should love it as well, even if you hate the Vols. Okay, Matt Miller helps me out with that, saying building around quarterback Jayden Daniels at wide receiver or on the offensive line would be a smart move. But the Commanders have to plug up their defensive holes that led to a 32-point loss in the NFC Championship game. Ouch. Pearce is a speed rusher with legitimate burst off the snap, which led to 17.5 sacks and 92 pressures the past 2 seasons combined. He needs time to build up his lower body to better hold up in the run game, but he has a similar profile to the Eagles' Nolan Smith Jr. and could be that type of impact player early. And okay, first thoughts, I absolutely love it. And I think it's a really good point out by Matt Miller that we're all kind of struggling with. We're all kind of going into this offseason saying, offensive line we need. We need a wide receiver. We need more weapons. But you do forget that the Eagles dropped a 50 burger on you in the NFC Championship. And I get it. That Eagles offense is phenomenal. But every other playoff game before that, they were held to within the 20s, okay? And so I think defense is something that this team still needs to look at as a legitimate option in round 1. Grade the pick for me, okay? If it is James Pearce Jr. at 29, how would you feel about it? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F down in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. YouTube is about to throw you an ad break. When that time comes, go down in that comment section, find this pinned comment, and give me your grade. So in 2023, James Pearce Jr. had a good year. Nothing phenomenal, nothing eye-popping, except probably the pressures with 55. But 7.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 38 tackles, 1 forced fumble, right? Good stats, but you're kind of confused why a guy like that might be mocked to go late in the first round with that kind of production. But then you take a look back at 2023, 27 tackles, but 15 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 52 pressures, 2 forced fumbles. And then you look back at 2022, and you could just see the jump that he's made from that year to 2023, and then a little bit of a downgrade in 2024. And that's why I'm going to talk about this from just kind of a ceiling perspective. And I think that James Pearce Jr. has an incredibly high ceiling. Okay, I think that Abdul Carter has a much higher floor than James Pearce Jr., but I would argue, and I think I could argue, that James Pearce might have a higher ceiling than Abdul Carter, okay? His speed, his athleticism, all of that is off the charts. His size is great. He'd have to put on a little bit more weight, especially in playing in a Dan Quinn style of defense. But man, everything that he has shown in college with his burst off the line quicker than anybody else's in this draft, in my opinion, all those things point to him being a really good professional football player. However, there is a reason that he's dropped in mocks over the last season, and it's because the sack production went down. And usually when you go from sophomore to junior year, in his case, in this case, you kind of expect those numbers to go up, right? There's a reason that he was mocked as the number 1 overall pick going into the collegiate football season back in August. And that's because, frankly, he didn't have as good of a season as people would have wanted, okay? He's a pressure lord. He's always there getting in your face, but I saw way too many times, and I promise you I watched every single James Pearce Jr. snap this last year. There's a lot of missed sacks, okay? There's a lot of things he need to shore up, but also on that same side of that coin, who's a better defensive coach to pair him with than Dan Quinn? Okay, I'd argue maybe none across the entire NFL. Okay, coming up, we got the 2nd round pick for the Commanders. Who is Washington going to take with that pick in the 60s? I'll tell you about that coming up in just a second. But before we get into that, I got to talk about the awesome sponsor of today's video, and that is our great friends over at Prize Picks. And the big game is almost here, ladies and gentlemen. It's now or never. So don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks. It's the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, or one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. And we talked about that big game free pick. And ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to miss out on this one. All Patrick Mahomes has to do is throw 1 passing yard, and that square wins. And if you know ball good enough, all you got to do is pair that with one more correct stat projection, and you can win some cold, hard cash. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, run your game. At pick number 61, the Washington Commanders are taking wide receiver out of Ole Miss, Mr. Trey Harris. First off, can we talk about how sweet those two colors look together? And just that baby blue out of Ole Miss. Okay, absolutely phenomenal. I'm done on my tangent. Here's what Matt Miller had to say about the wideout from Mississippi. Quarterback Jayden Daniels had an amazing rookie season, but the Commanders need to get him more receivers. Harris is a big-bodied pass catcher at 6'3", 210 pounds, and he caught 63 passes for 1,030 yards, 7 touchdowns this season. He excels on underneath routes and wins in contested situations. And his 2024 stats, they were phenomenal, especially when you take into account that he played in 8 games and still put up these numbers. 60 catches in 8 games, 1,000 yards in 8 games, 7 tuds in 8 games, and all of that with only dropping the football 5 times. And you take a look at it deeper, and this is something that should not surprise anybody because Trey Harris has been doing this his whole life. You look back to his last year at La Tech, 935 yards, 10 touchdowns. You look at his first year at Ole Miss, 985 yards, 8 touchdowns. All of that to say the production that Harris has had in college football, whether it's with Louisiana Tech against smaller, worse, frankly, competition, or whether it's with Ole Miss in the SEC, in the best conference in football, nothing changes, okay? He's just been a stud everywhere he's gone, and he's been a productive weapon for whatever offense he's in anywhere he is, okay? He's got a lot of really great positives. You heard Matt Miller talk about it. He's a big body pass catcher, okay? And I think he's a true outside X wide receiver. He's got a great catch radius. He has great body control to go with that as well. He's a solid route runner, okay? You wouldn't say he's like a Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper type, but he's solid, okay? He can be aligned anywhere as well. Even though he is 6'3", he does fine in the slot. He does it well anywhere you put him on the football field. But of course, with the positives, there comes some negatives as well. He's not the best accelerator. He's quick, but not top line speed wise. Like, it's nothing to write home about. Just like he just doesn't have great long speed, okay? There's negatives in his game. He's not great against the press either, okay? He can do the same kind of release routes, and I know you've probably seen the clip going around on social media of that one wide receiver just doing this like in 15 seconds. And by the time he's out of his release, the quarterback's been sacked 10 seconds ago, okay? So he doesn't excel against press. But I will say this, if you can snag Harris in the late second round at pick number 61, I'd absolutely love it, okay? I think he's going to be really good in the National Football League. He's been really good every single place he's gone, and especially if he can come to a team where he doesn't have the pressure to be a wide receiver one, okay? And he can just be solid, he can be confident, and he can be right where he is in that wide receiver 2 position right behind Terry McLaurin. Okay, I think he could thrive, and I think he would thrive if you get him at 61. Pick one out of those two for me, though, okay? If you had to pick one, of James Pearce Jr. or Trey Harris, who are you picking? Let me know in the comment section down below by typing JPJ or give me a TH if it's Trey Harris. Thanks so much for tuning in all week long. You guys have been phenomenal. We got another awesome week coming up right here on the Commanders Report. If you guys have not already, make sure to hit that sub button. Join us for daily coverage of your favorite team in burgundy and gold.